Bases dropped on another round of Soccer's morning show. Sorry about 9:06. Just taking my morning vitamins, and I got behind. So, John here, you there. Wall Pass Wednesday, midweek Whiparound. It's Wednesday. We got a lot of stuff to get to. There's a lot of news. Don't know how much of it we'll get to other than mentioning the fact that there's news. Hour number one is going to be the midweek Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Hoping Jason can join us around 9:30 to talk about Atlanta United and New England Revolution. And then hour number two is Dylan Butler, hopefully coming in at 10 o'clock as he always does. And then Bart Keeler coming in at 10:30 because we have Reffingdownhere. We've got news with the U.S. men's national team. We've got the U20s going on. And the Lionesses have announced their England squad for the Women's World Cup. And the irony of it all is that Bethany England's going to be playing for England. So I saw that and I couldn't resist it. So a lot of stuff to get into. We've got Juve. We've got Douglas Costa. We've got the stories from Leander Sherlakens. We've got Chris Klein out at LAG. We've got World Cup stuff going on, paying for rights fees. Rodrizzani and Sampdoria. So basically, there's nothing going on today. So, in trying to figure out what to do for opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. Figured what I'd probably do is just go through some of the oh, by the way stories and save the rest of it for stuff as we go. So don't forget, once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and then they in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Kevin Baxter at the LA Times, must follow on the Twitters, by the way. And it was interesting. He's been kind of busy. He's just kind of busy. And yesterday, let's see, it was before the Chris Klein departure, which happened around 9 o'clock last night. And I'm trying to figure, where is it? It's like all these, it's like podcast, this, that. Okay, here we go. Media reports in Brazil say an arrest warrant has been issued for LA Galaxy DP Douglas Costa for non-payment of alimony. Costa's guaranteed $4.5 million this season. Morning Four card is the 7th best paid player in Major League Soccer, but has more red cards than goals or assists, having played 106 minutes. So, not good if you are Douglas Costa. Then Leander Sherlakens, who is writing a book about the men's national team called The Long Game, had a bit of an interesting story, and I'm just going to read you the headline. Dutch winger Quincy Promes, who has just come second in scoring in the Russian Premier League, was already suspected of attempted murder after stabbing his cousin. Now he's been charged with orchestrating the smuggling of 3,000 pounds worth of cocaine. So, from our friends at NOS in the Netherlands. And prosecuted for the import of more than 1,300 kilos. Public Prosecution Service confirms this after reporting in the Het Parool. 2 batches totaling 1,363 kilos at the end of January 2020. They were intercepted at the port of Antwerp. According to the National Drug Monitor, the parties together would have accounted for around 75 million euro on the street in Amsterdam. The former Ajax player, former Orange International, already suspected in the involvement in drug trafficking and participating in a criminal organization. No, it has not been a good year so far for pros. The pretrial hearing is set for Monday. He plays for Spartak Moscow. And if he doesn't come to the Netherlands, the case, quote, can be handled by the court without his presence, but with a lawyer authorized by him. Prome's lawyer, Robert Malovitz, says he doesn't want to comment substantively. I will do that during the session on Monday. In another case, he's suspected of aggravated assault, allegedly stabbed his cousin in the knee at a family celebration. Promes has always denied that, but in telephone conversations that the police tapped, He confessed to the stabbing. Justice previously suspected him of attempted manslaughter, deemed this unproven. Last March, the court reopened the investigation in the criminal case. Last part of that case will also be held next Monday. So it's been not a good time for Quincy Promes. Yeah, that's moving about. That's what that is. And obviously, when we talk about Los Angeles Galaxy, we'll get into the departure of Chris Klein. One other thing that I wanted to get into, well, actually, I may just do the greatest hits here and do it before we get into the word from around the world. So, Juve, as everything is being downplayed by Jose Mourinho, downplaying the Sevilla fear factor ahead of the Europa League final. Juve is fined and won't face a new points penalty after striking a plea bargain, according to our friends at Agence France Presse. They escaped an additional Serie A points deduction, but agreed to pay a fine of more than €700,000, $751,000, for lying about players' foregoing wages during the COVID-19 pandemic after a plea bargain was approved Tuesday by the Italian Football Federation Tribunal. The plea deal, which Juve had requested, brings to an end a series of cases in Italy's sporting courts involving the Turin club. Last week, given the 10-point deduction, you'll remember, in Serie A after a revision of their initial 15-point penalty inflicted on the club over illicit transfer activity. Juve have agreed not to appeal that penalty as a part of this deal. The disciplinary tribunal of the Italian Federation, the FIGC, said in a published decision it had fined the troubled club €718,240. 7 of the management figures ordered to pay fines ranging from €47,000 to €10,000. Excluded from the plea agreement, however, is Andrea Agnelli, who jointly requested, along with prosecutors, that the hearing be postponed to June 15, given what the tribunal called advanced talks, in quotation marks, on potential sanctions. The Fed had been tasked with considering the deferred payment of certain player wages by the club and its key figures as a part of a wide-ranging scandal involving false accounting and transfer trickery. Like I said, this is from the Agence France Presse that's rocked Italian football. Newspaper La Stampa, which, like Juve, is owned by the Agnelli family, wrote on Tuesday the club had accepted the deal to avoid another points deduction, which could have pushed it further away from the European places in Serie A. Juve are 7th with one game of the season remaining after the imposition of the 10-point deduction. If they hold that position on the final day, they qualify for Europa Conference League, but they still have a chance of finishing as high as 5th and going into Europa League. Juve faces separate criminal proceedings in the affair, with the 12 current and former key club figures, including Agnelli, potentially facing trial. So there's that from Juve this morning. Jonathan Tannenwald's been very busy keeping an eye on stuff overseas, specifically having to do with the Women's World Cup. And let me see if I can find quickly. Rob Harris over at Sky News. Women's World Cup. Governments of Britain, France, Spain, Germany, and Italy are calling for FIFA and broadcasters to quickly reach an agreement on TV rights. Harris understands ITV and BBC believe they reached an agreement with FIFA last year on Women's World Cup rights, but then Infantino wouldn't sign off on it, while he's hoping now for larger fees given the disparity with Women's World Cup rights. So there's that. And then Phil Hay, while we were sleeping, the Leeds United writer for The Athletic, says that Andrea Radrizzani has secured the Sampdoria purchase, and now 49ers Enterprises will push now to agree and seal the takeover of Leeds United. Remember, they were kind of keeping an eye out of the evaluation. Morning, OG. Thanks for dropping by. The evaluation that Radrizzani had, if the team was going to be in the Premier League, is about £450 million. In the Championship, probably about a third of that. So we'll see what the number is, and especially as Radrizzani wanted to purchase Sampdoria, who has been recently relegated themselves. So we'll keep an eye on all of that going forward. So that is most of the news that's fit to print this morning. If anything else happens, obviously, as we go, we'll talk about it. So officially, that means that's your opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And what you can do is you go and pick up your Kickoff Coffee, and then with Kickoff Coffee, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get to 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. And very, very cool stuff when it comes to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So Jarrett Smith now joining us, and it's time for the weekend whip-around. Patent pending, trademark coming, hopefully sooner rather than later. And we've got matchups, we got juice boxes. Jason hopefully joining us close to the bottom of the hour. And, Jarrett, it'll be interesting to see all the quick turns because of the weekend and now the midweek, what it looks like with lineups. I know we'll talk with Jason about Atlanta United's lineup. For the record, before we get into the other matchups, the only 7 o'clock start is Atlanta United and the Revs. Atlanta United's a minus 112. The Revs and the draw basically both are around the plus 280. 7:30. Got a lot of 7:30s tonight. Crew and Rapids. Crew, Jarrett, are a minus 167. Your draw is a plus 320, and the Rapids are a plus 416. What say you, Jarrett Smith, as this one's on MLS Season Pass?
No to the Rapids. No to the Rapids. That's what I say.
No.
Just say no.
No to the Rapids.
The Rapids are the Rapids are the target of basically a modern DARE program.
Yes. No. DC United hosting CF Montreal, and that was on the free side of Apple TV, so it's at 7:39 kick. And for this one, it is DC at a minus 145. Your draws a plus 272. CF Montreal is north of 400 in the composite at a plus 407. What say you, Jarrett Smith? Just say no. Just say no to Montreal.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, on the surface, yeah, you would just say no to Montreal, but like Montreal's going to be a weird team. Like I wrote them off as one of the worst teams in this league, especially one of the worst Canadian teams that has ever existed in this league in this particular season. And they rattled off like 6 straight.
Yeah, really.
Started to believe in them. They tanked. So however you are feeling about Montreal, do the inverse. Montreal exists in a mirrored universe.
Okay. So basically take your vibe for Montreal and flip it.
And invert it completely, yes.
There we go. Inter Miami hosting New York Red Bulls at 7:39 kick on Season Pass. This one should probably set the game back a good decade. Inter Miami is a home dog at a plus 210. Your draws a plus 209. Red Bulls are a plus 143.
Red Bulls.
Yeah, it's you got angry folks right now on the touchline at DRVP and K. I don't think it gets any better. 7:39, New York City FC and FC Cincinnati, and that one is on the Season Pass side of things. NYC is a plus 118. The draw and FC Cincinnati basically the same, and anywhere from a plus 233 to a plus 234. Talk about really moving the line. What say you, Jarrett Smith?
I mean, Cincinnati just keeps plugging along, and honestly, the thing that's most impressive is that they're not getting up goals. Like they're winning. I keep waiting for things to kind of hit regression. Like we talked about this with Atlanta United. With the Atlanta United is actually due to regress defensively in a positive direction. They're giving up. They're very much middle of the pack in expected goals allowed. And I think they're 5th in expected goals. So, their offense should regress a little bit, but their defense should regress a lot to being better.
Yes.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But Cincinnati keeps pitching shutouts. So who am I to say no?
Yeah. So right now, like I said, NYCFC big favorite at a plus 118. We'll see how that goes. Coco with the words of the morning, exposing the general public to DC United Montreal as the free game is certainly a choice. That is true. And Bam is kind of nervous about 10 o'clock tonight, getting a bit nervous for Leon away today. Yes, and we'll get into the Timothy Tillman comments as a part of the discussion as well. Don't poke the bear, Timothy Tillman. Don't do that.
Timothy Tillman is.
Don't do that.
Do you want to end up on the front of a Mexican newspaper? Because that is very much how you end up on the front of a Mexican newspaper with making comments like that. Like if Leon comes out tonight and drops 3 goals on them, and does so in pretty fashion.
Yes. Everyone's going to point at Timothy Tillman and go, bruh, why you do that?
Don't invite trouble, man.
No, especially in a CONCACAF Champions final.
I respect the confidence. I respect the hell out of the confidence.
Yes.
But even if you're right,
don't
say it.
No, don't say it. Think it. Don't say it. Bam. Feel sorry for Chris Klein getting the sack. He's done a great job at Carson. Hashtag sarcasm.
I can't believe they actually did that.
Yeah. Coco says, you want spikes in your leg, Timothy Tillman? That's how you end up with spikes in your leg.
Well, that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, true. David wants to know what the over-under on subs before halftime is for DC. 3.5?
I think they'll get to halftime this time. I think. I think that was one of those things where, like, you make a statement.
Yeah.
And then the next time out, guys come out and hit the ground playing pretty well.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, then you have bigger problems to deal with.
Coco says that Klein has been LAFC's best executive. Absolutely true. Well played, Coco. And yes,
I still can't believe they did it.
I know.
Like, it was earlier this year, wasn't it, that he said he was gonna, like, if we don't make the playoffs, I'll step down.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's what he said. Well, they're
out loud for people to hear in public.
Yeah, that's what he said, and so he didn't even get to turn 2, and Coco, he gave the follow my sword speech, and then he got fired. So so that's what happened in L.A. Philadelphia Union hosting Charlotte at 7:39. Union are a big favorite at a -182. Charlotte with Will and Jess on the call. WFNZ are a +480.
Union are clicking again.
Yeah.
And look, Charlotte got a good win over the weekend in LA. Like, look, don't poo-poo. I'm not going to poo-poo. I'm trying to walk a line here, because you don't poo-poo any win in this league on the road, especially when you have to go across the country. But if there is any road trip that is a beneficial road trip to your existence, it is at StubHub.
Yes.
Or Dignity. I don't know what
Dignity Health Sports Park.
Dignity Health, whatever. It's still StubHub to me.
Yes, I know. Yeah, it's Dignity Health Sports Park.
If there's any road trip that you are like, cool, let's do it, it is going to LAFC or LA Galaxy. Excuse me. Sorry, Ben. It is going to the Galaxy. Who also have a player now who might be in legal trouble.
Yeah, we talked about Douglas Costa. 7th highest paid player in the league, more red cards than goals or assists. And he's lacking. He's now got an arrest warrant out there for child support payment. So good work. Also at 7:39, Toronto FC and Chicago Fire, north of the border. Toronto FC is a +104. Draws a +271. The Fire are a +235.
I mean, the Fire have shown a little life.
Yeah. And so has the locker room in Toronto.
Man, did y'all hear the thump, 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 thump of the tires running over Bernadeschi?
Oh, boy.
That was an amazing sound. Because Lorenzo Insigne got on the mic after the game the other night. It was like, I love everybody. I'm friends with everybody. We're cool, man. Anyone who's not cool with this locker room must be a loser.
Yeah.
That man cut a promo.
Yeah.
That man went out into he went into Piper's Pit and cut a promo.
Yep. And then he then he got the oh man. Oh, that was tremendous, man. Coco says Bernadeschi's going to steal Insigne's girlfriend or something for this.
Insigne's just going to steal his vape pen and they'll be even.
Yeah, he's going to like throw it out the car window. Like they're on the bus going from training facility to BMO or whatever. Steals the vape pen, opens the window, throws it out the window on the QEW. That's a bad scene, brother.
Man, it's
Uh-huh.
Like Insigne's like, I don't care about him.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how much Insigne cares about the team, but
Uh-huh. Yeah.
putting Bernardeschi in hell
Yeah.
is like the main goal here.
Well, it's
It
like,
was very successful.
well, and you sit there and you drive, you're driving down the road, you hear the what was that? I don't know. Back up. We'll see what happened. Wait, did you hear that? No, I don't know.
The difference here is Insigne knew exactly what he hid backed up anyway.
Uh-huh. That's true.
Just so he could do it a third time going forward again.
Coco's on a roll. Coco says Bernardeschi's going to call Mauro Icardi on how to screw over friends. And
he's going to send Wanda to he's going to send Wanda over to Insigne's house.
Yeah, and Coco says Insigne started a war with this. You wanted a war. You got a war.
I feel like Insigne can handle a war.
Yeah.
Like they both can handle a war, which is just going to make it more devastating for everybody around them.
Yep. The Hutch says the wheels on the bus go thump, thump, thump. You aren't kidding. And Coco, yes.
It would be hilarious if this whole thing hinges on the fact of like everybody's against Bernardeschi, especially after the Athletic piece that came out where it was just damning of the entire locker room and the relationships, and Michael Bradley and Bob Bradley comes out there like, no, we're cool, man. Bernardeschi's just a jerk and we're all just united against him.
I mean, you got that. So Toronto's going to be fun. Also, your first of your 8:30s, Austin and Minnesota United at Q2. Austin's a plus 114. The draw is a plus 243. Minnesota United is a plus 235. And this one
draw numbers
on the free side of Apple TV.
That draw number's pretty though, man.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of where Minnesota is, I think, right now. And Austin, I don't know how many of y'all have seen this, but like Austin still can't seem to do anything consistently. Yeah. Like it wasn't good. They got basically out efforted by Houston.
Yes.
In one of like 5 weeks worth of Copa Tejas.
Yes.
Put like 3 more teams in Texas, just so like every week is a Copa Tejas, please.
Exactly. Put one
and make it its own league. It can have the Six Flags League. I don't care.
Well, then what you do is you bring El Paso into the discussion, so our friend Duke Keith can call matches consistently. And you go out there to Southwest University Park. You got that one. You bring up our buddy Wilmer Cabrera down at HEB, and have RGV attached to it. And I'm trying to think, is there a sixth one that we haven't thought about? Oh, San Antonio. Yeah, you bring in San Antonio FC. Mm-hmm. You just elevate everybody from USL Championship. And
San Antonio Austin would be a blood rivalry too.
Yes.
That would be
fun. Kansas City and Dallas is on season pass at 8:39. And that is a plus 106 to Sporting, who've apparently found some offense. Plus 241 for Dallas for draw, and plus 254 for Dallas. I don't know if I trust Sporting Kansas City fully yet.
I don't either, but Sporting Kansas City has done enough and has they've garnered enough blood on that chain they've been swinging around that's not their blood to make you at least weary of them.
Yeah.
Like this is like watching somebody really, really bruised using nunchucks and realizing, oh, I didn't know how to do that. And then the last few weeks, those bruises have started to fade. There are not any new ones because they're kind of figuring out what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, those dents are not from them anymore.
No.
Those dents belong to other people.
Yes.
So,
9:30, RSL and LAG on the free side of Apple TV. So, it's good that the first match after the firing of Chris Klein is on the road at Rio Tinto. It's on the free side of Apple TV at 9:39.
Nobody should want. Like, Rio Tinto is one of those stadiums, though, man. Like, when we talk about, like, where would you make a random team from UEFA play a game?
Yeah.
Rio Tinto is near the top of that list.
Yeah.
Like, we got we got to send like a mid-tier Premier League side over to play a game in America. And
Wolves, Wolves and
yeah.
Real Salt Lake at Rio Tinto.
Yes, exactly. And Wolves might win that game 4-0. I don't know. I mean, they'll have more money and more talent on the field probably.
Yeah.
But you don't. One does not simply walk into the riot.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. RSL's a plus 108. Your draw's a plus 261. LAG's a plus 229. I got to go with RSL here. I mean, I'm getting a plus, and even if it's a little bit of a plus, I'll take it. Coco says the fact that the Fed doesn't play CONCACAF matches at Rio Tinto is a travesty. Absolutely true.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely true.
I feel like I would rather play games there than play games at Red Bull Arena.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a knock on Red Bull Arena. It's that I am that high on Rio Tinto.
Yeah. Or Allianz in the middle of winter. 2-10-30s. Seattle and San Jose. Your Quakes are a plus 315 on the road. Draws a plus 278. The Sounders, who are probably officially angry, are a minus 123 at home.
That feels right. Like it's a favorite, but it's not an overwhelming favorite.
I gotta go Seattle. I really do.
I'm gonna take the draw.
The total to me, the over under is
what's that?
2.5 is a minus 125. 3.5 is a plus 195. That's when it flips. So 3.5 at a plus 195 for that match. So the question is, do you think they're going to get to 3? Do you think they're going to get to 4?
I mean, I don't know if they do though. Like, somebody had the stat the other day that if you look at like San Jose cannot hold on to games late. They are the.
Oops. Jarrett was in the middle of a discussion about Seattle, and the real world got in the way. So there's. What'd you do?
That. I don't know. I hit a button. The San Jose are the kings of not holding on to games late.
Yeah.
Like, if they did, if they got all their points from late game situations, they would be at or near the top of the West. San Jose is not the same team they were last year or 2 years ago.
Right.
And this is an evolution, and it's an evolution I'm working through as well because gone is my sloppy drunk friend from the frat. Gone is Bluto.
Yeah.
And now what we have is Senator Plutarski.
Yeah, that's true.
It's this slow progression for San Jose away from smashing guitars and kidnapping people at the Faber Founders Day parade.
Yeah.
And they're progressing to like normalcy. It's weird because you're always going to miss the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But the normalcy had to happen at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
how's it feel to be an independent, Schoenstein? Yeah, I'll let everybody else finish that quote.
Yeah.
All right. Then the other match at 10:30, Vancouver and Houston. And anybody going to BC Place is always going to have a problem. Vancouver's a minus 167. Your draw is a plus 317. Houston is a plus 423. I got to go Vancouver in this one.
Yeah, Vancouver's mad. Vancouver comes back. Vancouver gave up 3 goals over the weekend to the city.
All caps.
Yes, sorry. I was trying to think of a way to say that in your
all
way,
caps.
I can't do it the same way. But like the XG for St. Louis was like 0.8.
Yeah.
And I think most of that came on the last goal, which was a putback at an open net.
Right.
Because I need to go look at the numbers because we talked earlier about like Atlanta's due to regress for goals surrendered. They'll regress a little bit on goals scored too. They lead the league in goals scored, but they're like I think 4th or 5th in expected goals.
Yeah.
They'll if regression is true, which sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. That's why it's called regression. That's why it's not a prophecy. It's statistics. I need to check and see what St. Louis's is because The number of stupid goals that St. Louis has gotten this year,
Oh God.
it was already dumb, and now it's just like you're starting to wonder if you're in a simulation because you got the goal. The first goal was a free kick that, by the way, shouldn't have been a free kick. Um, like Vinny picked up a hefty fine, I'm sure, after the game because he laid into the refs after the game. And overall, like the whole total picture, like it wasn't like the ref was making a ton of mistakes every 5 seconds, but he missed key moments. So like it's not a foul in my opinion. The one that leads to that free kick, like he's defending. He goes around the player, goes Machop Chol style with long limbs, goes around the player and plays the ball, and the St. Louis player falls down. It's if you can buy the foul, you buy it.
Yep.
Then that free kick just floats into the back post. It's insane given the distance, and it just feels like it's a mistake all the way around. Nowitzki should have been off. Nowitzki should have been off twice, and he wasn't. That was, I think, the big one. I think that was the biggest mistake that the ref made in that game was Jake Nowitzki's already on a yellow, and then commits two really bad fouls in 2 minutes on a yellow. And then the second goal for St. Louis is a long ball that looks like it's just you're trying to like play a diagonal into the box, and the defender heads it into his own goal from 18 yards away.
Right.
Like they're operating on a level of stupid fortune that is, it's amazing.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring in Jason to find out about. So, is stupid fortune how you would describe what happens with St. Louis a lot this year so far?
No, that's being a little over the top there, Jared Smith.
How dare you?
They create a lot of their stupid fortune, and you got to give them credit for it. I don't love their style of play. I think it's going to have some limitations that'll catch up to them. But yeah, they've gotten the benefit of quite a few things, but they've also created those mistakes in the opposition as well. Even if the mistake they're creating is as simple as a former teammate yelling at somebody like, "Hey, pass it to me. I'm open," and maybe ending a friendship. There's that.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, they've been up and down here lately, and I think what's going to happen more and more is teams are going to make St. Louis have to play with the ball. And I just want to see if they can do that consistently. They have been missing Joao Klaus as well. And when they get Klaus back, then I think we'll have a better sense of what St. Louis can be. But I'm not buying yet that they are the greatest expansion team we've ever seen. I'm not buying yet that they're one of the contenders in the Western Conference. But they're also better than just getting lucky. I mean, they're a good team, and the biggest thing they have is a bought-in playing style that they're going to go with until people who are making the decisions on that playing style are not there. So the signings are going to fit that. The way they play, no matter what, is going to fit that. And you always have that to fall back on. It helps you get started. The question is that style and the talent they've brought in good enough to elevate you when teams put limits on your play style? And I don't know yet. I don't think it is. I think that they're going to be a 4 or 5 kind of team in the West. I think that's where they'll settle out, but we'll have to wait and see.
Couple of folks are wanting to get your thoughts on games other than Atlanta, so we'll get into those before we get into Atlanta and New England. Coco wants to know what your thoughts are about the telenovela going on in Toronto right now.
It's a telenovela because you don't know who necessarily to believe. And that's a part of this equation. And I think it's something that you got to keep in mind when these kinds of sensationalized reports come out. And yeah, we've seen that before, and we've seen it play out. And I haven't been checking to see if the article has changed at all since it was posted on Friday. But you heard Lorenzo Insigne after the game, and he didn't seem to be on the same storyline that the article was on Friday. maybe there is a little bit to the Insigne Bernardeschi spat between the two of them. Maybe things are different after a win. I don't know. I mean, it's a telenovela, and I've said it since the beginning of last year. I think Bob Bradley's gotten the roster build wrong. He fixed a little bit of that this year. He went out and he got Sean Johnson. He got Matt Hedges. He improved the defense. They've had some bad luck with injuries too. But what worked for him in the attack, and again, depending on who you believe that's talking about it, and I think the article did kind of point you in this direction. He hasn't changed anything about what worked for him attacking wise from a coaching perspective in LA to what isn't working in Toronto. It's different people, and maybe he has to adjust, but I don't think he forgot how to coach when he crossed the border, you know? So, I mean, the idea that like his sessions are nothing and this and that, it might just not work for Bernardeschi or others too. But that doesn't mean that what he did in LA had nothing to do with him. You know what I mean? Like, he's accomplished things. They're real. They're tangible. He's one of the best coaches the United States has ever had. The rush to hashtag out people is way, way out of hand. And the idea that should drive teams' decisions in what they do is also way out of hand. Bob Bradley hasn't done a good enough job in Toronto, period. And I think it's roster even more than what he's done from a coaching perspective in training and on the sidelines. Yes, it's complicated when it comes to the Michael Bradley situation. I think Michael's the one who is getting screwed the most in all of this because he was there first. He's a club legend.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because of some people who came in and got paid a lot more money than Michael got, and people who haven't done anything in Toronto as of yet, running their mouth, Michael's reputation has taken a hit. And that's not fair. That's 100% not fair. And you guys know by now how I feel about Michael Bradley. I think he's one of the best midfielders the United States has ever produced. And if you want to argue that, I'm sorry. I think you're wrong. And I think you're letting emotions on a loss that last time I checked, there were 11 guys on the field in Trinidad and Tobago. And I don't know why Michael Bradley took the blame for all of that. If you're feeding into it because of that, I think you're wrong. I think it's emotional responses that are completely and utterly unfair. People sullying Michael Bradley in this right now is not fair. He didn't hire his dad. He was there first. And I think there's a lot of rush to judgment. And there was a lot of rush to judgment after that article dropped. That rush to judgment ran off the road after Toronto won and Lorenzo Insigne spoke. Yeah. So, look, is there something wrong in Toronto? Yes, there has been for a while. Is everything the article said true? No, I don't think it is, frankly. I don't. I'm sorry. We've been down this road before. When people are speaking without putting their names on it, you have to take it with a grain of salt. And you have to wonder about why that's happening, whether why they're afraid to put their name on it, or why it's being used in that way, or why they're speaking in general. And frankly, Bernardeschi hasn't been good enough in Toronto for what he's been paid. And Insigne has been hurt too much. And that's what it comes down to for Toronto's success. And Bradley didn't upgrade the defense last year and took too long to do it. And then he had Matt Hedges get hurt this year. So, I mean, that's had an effect too. But has Bradley been successful? No. Was the article 100% accurate? No, I don't think it was. And I think Lorenzo Insigne's comments after the game should point you in that direction.
One more MLS topic before we get into Atlanta and the Revs. Chris Klein out at LAG.
No surprise. It was time. I mean, it's, and again, I think it's easy to go simplistic here and say fans protest equals Chris Klein being fired. No, Chris Klein's bad performance is what got him fired. The fans speaking out about it, okay, that's cool. They weren't wrong in this case. I mean, this is a guy who did get suspended for a very shady deal that we talked about extensively at the time with Christian Pavone that made no sense whatsoever. and he gets in trouble for it, and he's hurt the club because they can't bring anybody in the summer window. And they didn't get a good enough roster together this year knowing that. So, yeah, got to go. Time to go. Bye.
Yeah.
I think there's questions about Greg Vanney as well. And maybe because of Klein's incompetence, and Klein hasn't been completely incompetent. Again, as we go through all these things all the time, when the #out crusade happens, or when the narrative is that this person isn't good, or this person's a bad guy, or this person isn't talented, it washes away everything. Chris Klein's time at LA Galaxy hasn't all been bad either. They haven't gotten back to where they needed to get. He broke rules. He put the team behind the 8 ball. He didn't get them out in front of the 8 ball before they can't add players from outside the country in the summer window. And they're not good enough this year at all. So he's got to go, and he's going to take the fall for that. I think that might end up helping Greg Vanney in the long run, because Vanney gets a little bit of a get out of jail free card, because I don't think Greg Vanney's been good enough in LA either. Last year, they should have been better than they were, and they weren't. And that's on Vanney. He's a better coach than what we've seen from him in LA. Maybe. And if he can fix things and has more say in player acquisitions, which, again, he can't do anything this summer outside of bringing guys in domestically, maybe he saves his job there. But also, if they bring somebody else in, maybe that person wants to go in a different direction too. So we'll see what happens with Vanney. But, yeah, it was time for Klein. I mean, you break the rules, you put the team with severe punishments to where they can't bring players in, and then you don't get the roster where it needs to get before those punishments take effect. I mean, that's just, you got to go.
Yep. Jarrett, we're Atlanta and the Revs tonight. What's your first question for Jason?
Not even a question. I'm just going to piggyback off everybody else's comments because I'm mad now because we can do this. So hell, let's go for it.
What are we doing?
Well, if we're going to boo, if we're going to do this thing where everybody continues to boo Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore when they come to Mercedes-Benz Stadium because of the game in Trinidad, I'm assuming tonight that everyone's going to boo Bruce Arena out of the building because he's the one that got the plan wrong in Trinidad, right, folks?
I mean,
and he's the one that put old ass Tim Howard out there who couldn't stop a shot from 30 yards.
He's the one who didn't put 2 holding midfielders in against the team that's going to play long ball and play for the second ball. That's what went wrong in Trinidad.
So we're going to boo him too, yeah? Because I just want to make sure that everyone's being on a logical train here. Oh, sorry, I forgot we don't do that. Hell,
no, we don't do that. No,
we're just going to still boo Michael Bradley, and we're just going to boo Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore. Look, I mean, Josie.
They're not booing Josie in the same way they boo Michael, and that's really unfair.
Which is amazing because Josie's been much more of a heel.
In
multiple ways.
A little bit.
No,
Bradley's just kind of
put his head down and done his job.
Michael Bradley's getting towards the end of his career. I hope that when he retires, it's animosity. I mean, I don't know. It's not fair. Whatever it is, I hope that it goes away. And what really ticked me off about all of this on Friday with Toronto is the fact that, for whatever reason, there's a lot of people who don't want to claim Michael Bradley as one of the top U.S. men's national team players of all time when he is. And there's no way around that argument outside of trying to put one game on one person and have it wash away their entire career. It hasn't washed away Bruce Arena's career. He's the GOAT. He's the best American soccer coach of all time. There's no way around that. Numbers back it up. Trophies back it up. All of it backs it up. Did he get stuff wrong in that run? Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. He got the tactics completely and utterly wrong in Trinidad and Tobago in that game. Doesn't mean he's a bad coach for everything he ever did. Doesn't take away, the first 2 MLS titles. It doesn't take away all the trophies he won at Virginia. It doesn't take away what he did with the Galaxy. It doesn't take away what he has done with the Revolution. It doesn't take away any of that. It means he got it wrong on the day, and because they had no margin of error, they didn't qualify. That's what it means. Michael Bradley he didn't have an own goal. He didn't kick the ball into his own goal, turning around and doing something stupid. He didn't even have that bad of a game. Why he's getting all the blame is absolutely ludicrous, and it's got to stop. We've got to be better in terms of American soccer fans and conversation than that garbage. You don't like the guy, that's fine. But the booing for years and the blaming for years is too much. And if it's shifted now because he's Toronto and you don't like Toronto and all that, okay, whatever. That's not where it started. And if it's shifted into something else, that's fine. And maybe it has for some people. I don't know. But the reaction to Michael Bradley since that game has been so utterly unfair in American soccer circles.
Okay, so I'll ask an actual question about the game now.
We can.
No, I'm happy to rant about that literally 8 days a week. I don't care. New England is coming into this game still in third place, but slipping, giving up lots of goals, gave up through Chicago, and actually had 11 men on the field when they gave up through Chicago and had to use a late Josie equalizer.
They haven't won in 4 in all competitions.
Yeah,
I know, including falling to the fighting Bob Lillies.
Yeah,
in Pittsburgh. In your lead up to this, what's not clicking for them on defense? That's keeping they're just giving up goals. It seems like at a pretty good clip.
Well, Noel Buck talked about it after the game on Saturday. They're getting off to slow starts, and Bruce Arena is one of the best interviews of all time. Period. He said that they had some incredibly, I think the quote is lame plays in that game, New England. So they need to stop being lame, first off. They need to get off to better starts. They also have a ton of injuries, and that's another issue here. When you look at the player availability report for New England, we saw the injury to Dylan Barrero earlier in the year. He's done for the year. Brandon Bye's out with a left shoulder injury. Henry Kessler's out with a right hamstring injury. That's 2 of your back line. So you've had to mix things around and try to figure that out. McNamara, Maciel, Nacho Heel also out. Gustavo Bo is upgraded to questionable for tonight. But you look at what they have tried to do lineup-wise, they're generally a 4-2-3-1 team, but they're not completely locked into that. It can turn into a diamond. It can turn into what we saw on the weekend against Chicago, which was 2 up top. It was more of a 3-5-2 kind of a look, or 5-3-2, depending on the moments in the game. And that's because you're missing Kessler and Bye, and that's a big loss. They've got one of the top goalkeepers in the league in Petrovic. They've got maybe the best playmaker the league has had in the last decade in Carlos Heel. He's that good. Up top, they've been okay. Vrioni is talented and hasn't delivered as much as maybe they hoped that he would. Bobby Wood's a hard worker. He's had a pretty good year, but not blowing you away. Carlos Heel can only do so much without Gustavo Bo. They're getting good performances out of the teenager Noel Buck. Matt Polster, very solid in the midfield. But I think their dip in form comes with the injuries on the back line. And they're giving up goals that we're not accustomed to seeing this team give up on a regular basis. And until they get by Kessler back, then they're going to have to scramble a little bit and, move DeJuan Jones over to the right like they did against Chicago. You're going to be playing Emmanuel Boateng as a wing back, or you're going to be playing Christian McCoon as a left back, which is not exactly ideal in either situation. So that, combined with the way that they play, which is really fluid in front of the back line, that can work when you've got the defensive base. But when you don't have the strong defensive base and you're super fluid in front of that, you don't have that solidity that you need. So if you go into a game and your back line is shaky, a lot of times your conversation with your defensive midfield is going to be, hey, stay home a little bit. Be careful. Like, we need you to sit here. Don't get forward as much. Don't get wide as much. We need you to protect this group. That's not the way New England plays. Polster likes to get forward when he can. Buck played in the holding midfield in the last game. He's not a holding midfielder. Latif Blessing can kind of play as a holding midfielder, but he's not naturally there. He wants to get forward. So when you're shaky and then you have that fluid attack in front, which usually works really well, but when you're leaking goals, it doesn't always line up the right way. And I think that's where New England is right now. They're just kind of stuck in terms of, do you want to shut things down and play defensively, which is not their nature, to protect a weakened defense due to injury? Or do you want to roll the dice and stay as true to your identity as you can, knowing that you're going to give up more goals than you normally do? And they went for the latter, and that's why it was a 3-3 against Chicago.
For Atlanta, I guess we can start by talking about how much of a maniac Brad Gazan is.
Yeah, I mean, the guy shouldn't be back on the field according to the timelines that were given when he was injured. He shouldn't have been back as quickly as he was doing activities last year, coming back from an Achilles. He's just a maniac in all the good ways. I had the chance to see him. I talked about it last week in that open training session last Tuesday, and I was just blown away by not just he's out there and he's looking like Brad and making plays like you expect him to make. I was just blown away by how hard he was working to lead the team and be a leader and pick guys up when they needed to be picked up and talk to guys when they needed to be talked to and yell at guys when they needed to be yelled at. All those things that a good captain does. And I've said it many times over the years. If I'm building a team and take the people's names out of it and the personalities out of it, I don't love having the captain's armband on my goalkeeper. I'd rather have that on somebody on the field. I think they can affect things a little bit more there. Brad's not your typical goalkeeper captain in my mind. He's not the quiet lead by example guy. He can do everything that he needs to do to keep things organized and everything that he has to do as a captain. He can do that from goal. And I think he's vital for that. And I thought we saw a much better defensive performance in Orlando in terms of those moments. Yeah, they conceded a goal. It takes a deflection out wide to the right. You're trying to scramble over. You don't make the play. But I thought they made a lot of plays, made a lot of clearances, made a lot of blocks, did a good job in terms of team defending on Facundo Torres, who was coming inside a lot as an inverted winger. And I think a lot of that's down to Brad Kazan and the leadership that he brings. And then when he can make that big save in a big moment. And yeah, I mean, Quentin Westberg made some big saves and Clément Diop made some big saves. You can't say that they didn't. They did. Brad, when he made that save against Orlando, and some of it's just down to the moment in the game, I thought it gave Atlanta a lot of life. And that's what you need in those moments in that position. And I thought Brad gave you everything that you needed. And I mean, I don't know what his long-term plans are. I don't know if he knows at this point, I mean, you go into last year and you're ready to roll coming off of a great finish to 2021 and good start to 2022. And then the injuries start to hit and then Brad goes down. He didn't want his career to end that way. And he works like an animal to get back, and he does get back. And you come into this year with a lot of hopes and a lot of excitement, and you get off to a great start, and then he gets hurt. And, he doesn't want his career to end like that. So I don't know if he's got 2-3 more years in him. I don't know. But I think he knows that he doesn't have 10 more years in him. Yeah. And he's trying to get the most out of every moment that he has left on the field and with this club. And you have to commend him for it. This is a guy who took a pay cut to help with cap issues. This is a guy who does everything that you could possibly do to make this club better. Brad Gazan has been just an amazing leader for this team, whether he was wearing the captain's armband in the early days when Parkey was there. Brad had a factor in leadership at that time. And since he got the armband after Parkey left, he's been a great steward for the club.
Jarrett, go for it.
Yeah, as far as what we've seen on the field, like the last game coming into this game, and I know you're still dealing with some depth issues. You get Franco Ibarra back. Giacomakis, you're hoping can give you 75 to 90 minutes. You're still working his way back into game fitness. What are your expectations with? And I hesitate to put expectations on them because it can be tricky with kids, but with kids, we've talked ad nauseum, I think, at this point about Tyler Wolff. Just his reaction to not making the U20s has been basically turning coal into diamonds with the pressure and responding the right way to it. And then we saw in limited minutes, I think it's the first time we've seen a Johnny Fortune jump on the field and really, for a minute there in Orlando, really looked like he belonged. So I wanted to get your ideas on expectations for, what to expect from the kids, and especially while guys start to get healthy.
You're going to manage the expectations for those guys, and you're going to manage the pressure you put on those guys. And that's, I think, the most important element here is, a good substitute appearance doesn't mean that they're a locked-in starter for the next month. And you have to be careful of that recency bias in these situations. You don't want to overwhelm these guys. I think Tyler's trajectory has been good so far this year. And this is a guy who's been around it for a while now. Tyler's had a good bit of exposure to the MLS level, and he's been one that hasn't locked in his time and his spot and his impact at the first team level over the past couple of seasons. He'll have moments, and then it doesn't click, and then he fades back. He's got to continue to push from here. And I think that's a big one for somebody like Eugenio Villazon, the assistant manager for Atlanta United, who handles a lot of the individual development programs for the young players. It's one where I would assume that there's a lot of conversation there to make sure that, okay, you did this really well. We need more of this. We need more of this. When you come into these games, you've got to continue to impact games. When you go and play for the twos to get a start, you've got to be the same level of impactfulness for a longer period of time, even maybe more, even stronger in those games, because you're expected to carry a team in those games. You've got to continue to show it. Ajani, it's the same thing. This was a big step for Ajani. I thought in a game where you're trailing and you can't just go in and be on the field and get those minutes and get used to the speed of play. You've got to go in and impact it. And he did. And he intercepted a couple of passes. He did a great job at Johnny Fortune. But it's the same thing. It's, okay, you're still competing with Mateus Osechu, with the Sejdic, with Santiago Sosa, with Franco Ibarra. You're still competing with Osvaldo Alonso, who has been training fully here for the last couple of weeks. He's getting the fitness back to where he can factor in. And I think from what Gonzalo Pineda said yesterday, Ozzy might be in the team for the LA game. He might be in that group. So that's a lot of competition for a Johnny Fortune. One game doesn't change the depth chart, but it can start a run that does change the depth chart. So for those guys right now, while you're managing a compressed schedule, you might have some international absence issues in June with Gold Cup, with international friendlies, et cetera, et cetera. Those young guys are going to continue to get opportunities. And now I think what happens is, especially for somebody like Fortune, because I think Wolf had already pushed through this part. Now you can trust a Johnny to come in based off of this past game. When you're trailing, when you're level, when you're chasing a game, and he can help you get to where you're trying to get to, rather than, okay, we have a couple goal lead and we can bring him in and he's not going to run it off the road. Now he can help impact results. And that's the next step. The step after that is to beat guys out in training and beat guys out with your performances and get starts. And that's the hardest step. And then getting a few starts into a starting spot. And that takes time. And these guys are still working to that. But where they can impact games, you have more options off the bench and you have more options to change things in matches where it's not going your way.
Dylan Butler now hanging out with us. So, Jason.
What's up, Dylan?
What's up? It's been a minute, my man.
Yeah. I've been running around like a lunatic as of late after recovering my wind somewhat after COVID last year. But yeah, I've been out at training a lot, been calling as many other games as I can as well, just like you. I know you're doing every sport under the sun.
Trying, man, trying. Our lacrosse season's winding down, which is good.
But nice. Broadcast plans, Jason, for 92.9.
Yeah, we're early tonight. It's a weird one because it's on FS1 as well. So we're on at 6:30 with the Five Stripes countdown. Kickoff is 7:25. So we have a long pregame. Hoping to have Steve Cook from Atlanta United too in the booth with us for the second segment. So stay tuned for that. You can listen on 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app, and then once the game starts, you can listen on Apple TV. Just click the home radio option.
What he said. So Jason goes away, and Dylan drops in for full time. So Jason, thanks again. We'll catch up with you soon.
Adios.
All right, there goes Jason. So here's Dylan, and on the hot tag. And tonight, Dylan, and we haven't had a chance to talk about this particular match yet. LAFC and Leon. And I've heard that this is one of relative import. And there was a player for LAFC who decided when he was in front of a microphone to say some rather spicy things about the match.
Yeah.
Quoting this individual, I think Mexican teams usually don't play that tactical. It's more or less emotional. Very much 1v1. It's all about fighting. It's all about the emotions. Of course, they've got quality up front, but if we play well, I'm sure we can win over there. If Timothy Tillman wanted to have bulletin board material for Leon, is this the example? Is this the picture in the dictionary under bulletin board material that you would have as a part of your visuals when it comes to a match like this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you like your salsa, but apparently Tillman likes it very, very hot, right?
Oh.
So he will be in it tonight. If he wasn't planning on being the enemy number one, he's right there tonight. So I'll be interested to see how much Lyon players maybe take into that. Like, is there not red card ish, right? But is that first tackle on him a pretty strong one, right? Like
a little bit of a reminder.
Yeah, it could be interesting for sure. I don't know. I think probably in like a team meeting, Steve Trundle probably was like, maybe not the best things to say here. As a guy who's played for the national team against Mexico for so many years, you don't want to poke the bear. That's for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Jared Smith for Dylan Butler.
Well, John took the elephant out of the room with that one. That's fine. As far as that actual game goes, and just part one in a series, really, what are your thoughts on LAFC's chance here to? I guess the mindset of you're not going to win a two-legged matchup in one leg, but you can sure as hell lose it.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on how they can manage this and just keep it within, at the very worst, within shouting distance going back?
So I think what's interesting here, guys, is I'll take this back. You don't even argue. It is a fact. This is the first time ever that an MLS team is kind of considered the favorites, right? In this game against the Mexican team. So, and the further back you go is how heavy an underdog they were, right? Like you go back to Salt Lake and Monterrey and huge, underdogs and the former Montreal Impact similar, right? So you've now graduated to the point of an MLS team being LAFC as the favorites here. And I think there's some interesting things here, right? Like LAFC's been able to set themselves up for this match by playing in multiple competitions and every week. Lyon has not, right? Like, is that advantage LAFC, or maybe is the rest advantage for Lyon, because this is all they've been concentrating on for what, a couple weeks now, right? So the form and fitness is an interesting one. Yeah, Jared, you're right. I mean, like you can, a poor performance in the first leg can really hurt you going to the second. So, I think LA, and I'm sure it's not even a conversation inside the room, but I think LAFC is sort of trying to deal with, and it's still very difficult to go to Mexico to get a result, but also dealing with this kind of monumental pressure of the favorites, right? And think about it for Leon. How great is this, right? Like, you're home for the first leg. Seemingly everyone's talking about LAFC. Now you've got Tillman, adding to it, right? Like, Vela is coming back to Mexico, so
True.
all the talk and everything is on that team, right? Like, it's off of you, which is great.
Oh, what's the mug this morning, by the way?
Yeah, we're gonna go. We're going a little be a goldfish.
Yes. Okay. I did not watch it at midnight last night. So.
No spoilers. I'm like 7 episodes behind.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna fight Apple. I'm gonna fight them.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden Apple decides in the middle of the afternoon to sit there and go, midnight Eastern time. And I think it was because the cast was in Los Angeles supporting the writers' strike, and they were out on the picket line yesterday afternoon. But there was supposed to be like a small celebration, I think at 9 o'clock out on the West Coast with the cast and things like that. But no, I've yet to see it. Probably going to be a little while before I see the finale. I
did see the finale of Succession, though. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Well, and do you believe did you bite on the Wamsgans theory?
I don't know if you want to go away with spoilers, but I didn't know if I heard the theory.
Basically that he was named Wamsgans because of was it Bill Wamsgans, the unassisted triple play, the only unassisted triple play ever in World Series history?
That's how he got the name?
Because of that action was the unassisted triple play taking out the three.
Oh, the three. Yeah, okay. All right. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, so that is a theory that has popped up
on
social media, that it was named Wamsgans because of the unassisted triple play to take care of every family member and be the CEO at the end of it. I don't mind Succession spoilers because I never watched the show, and I can, I understood it. Brian Cox was fantastic, but and Alan Ruck was fantastic, but I never got into the show, so I can do spoilers for Succession. But Ted Lasso, I've yet to see.
Yeah.
LAG, since we're in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Chris Klein
officially out. Take the hashtag out now.
Yeah, well, and I mean, he said at the beginning of the year, if we don't make the playoffs, I'm out. And so they didn't even wait that far. They're just like, bruh, see ya.
Yeah, the scenes at the end of their match against Charlotte were not pretty. And something that, I don't know, is this the growth of the game in the U.S.? Something that we usually see in other countries, right? Like, we just saw that with Milan in Italy, and you see this in Mexico and other places where it's just sort of, the supporters kind of on the spot, like giving it to you, and it suddenly becomes this it's not a confrontation necessarily, right? But certainly a heated conversation, you would say, right? And
yeah, no doubt.
And off of that defeat,
they pretty much, blanked all season long,
Yeah, no, for sure. But that seems to have been the final straw for Klein to be out. So I think. I don't know, I mean, but here's a question, like, because like he's out, but do they get better from here? Right?
What can you do for transfers?
Nothing.
So
you could trade in the league, right?
But the thing is, if you want to trade with LAG, and I know that none of those players will be named Douglas Costa, if you want to trade with LAG, you're going to hold them over the proverbial barrel and go, well, yeah, if you want so-and-so, well, then we want this, this, and this, because LAG is working from a disadvantaged position in the first place.
Yes.
So I think that if you are a front office vulture in Major League Soccer and you want to do a deal with LAG, you could probably, do something, and they might have to sit and take it. This would be castor oil when we were kids, man.
Yeah, well, it's not a good time. And then again, right? Like, you put yourself in those supporters' shoes. and suddenly you're like hate watching. I don't even know if you're watching, right? Because the fortunate thing for them is they're playing, so you can avoid hate watching the LAFC Lyon match. But you're playing in this match tonight, and your biggest rivals, that have just come into the league and have won all these things, and people talking about the greatest team ever, are in the Champions League final. So it's quite a contrast from downtown LA to Carson.
No doubt. Jarrett for Dylan Butler.
Speaking of tire fires, let's go north of the border, where Lorenzo Insigne backed a bus over his teammates, and no one knows what's true anymore in Toronto, and no one has a clue what's actually going on, because it's just he said.
Mm-hmm.
How do you?
And in different languages, like you got to get the Google Translator out.
Oh yeah. There's how do you begin to take apart whatever the hell Toronto has done over not even just the last week, but the last year?
Heavy sigh from Dylan.
We have time for that.
A heavy sigh is how I've been approaching it too. I'm not mad.
Yeah, no. Well, and to Insigne's credit, then, after this hellfire was ignited, he goes out and sets up a pair of young homegrowns and gets 2 assists, and they win the darn game, right? Like in the words of Bob Murphy back in the day for the Mets. So yeah, I don't. And then you see at the end, Bradley and Bernadeschi sort of make amends, and now he's back in the lineup, or not in the lineup, I should say. But he's part of the team tonight. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the Italian version of a soap opera is, but that is it there, man. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's like we know telenovela, and we were trying to figure out for telenovelas, but we couldn't figure out what it was. It might be Riverdale if it was produced by the CBC.
There's got to be somebody watches Rye or is whatever RAI.
Nick Alifi, our host of soccer over there, needs to come up with the equivalency when I'm watching Rai Uno.
Yeah, and I would 1,000% watch one of those if it's Italian. Like, oh my god, that'd be crazy.
Other thoughts from the week that was now as we come into a weekend midweek situation here.
Yeah, I mean a few that stood out to me. In the East, Philly getting their mojo back, it seems like, right? NYCFC not. Like, even when they've struggled, NYCFC's been able to at least lean on, whether it's Citi Field or Yankee Stadium, that home field advantage they have, and that even right now doesn't seem to be the case, right? So, like at Toronto, like we knew what Toronto needed last year and this year. Central defense, right?
Yeah.
And they've hardly addressed that. NYCFC's needed a center forward. We've known that, right, from the time that Tati Castellanos left and Eber was traded. So they've tried different things. It's not worked. They, unlike LAG, do have the ability to do something in the secondary window, and this is a forgiving league. We've seen that with Sporting Kansas City, right? Like they were at the very bottom, people calling for Vermees's head.
Mm-hmm.
They get a couple of results, and all of a sudden, they're near the playoff line. So it doesn't take a lot in this league to turn yourself around. And I think Houston's an interesting one too, right? Where they're a team that's kind of quietly making their stadium a fortress there. So credit to Ben Olsen, man. Like he. I don't think there are a lot of people super excited necessarily when he got that job.
Yeah.
And the jury's still out. Obviously, it's only 15 matches into the season, but he's done a good job with them, man. Like he's seemingly gotten the buy-in from his guys, and Hector Herrera is the big question mark in that. But they're winning games at home. They're winning Copa Tejas matches, and that's a fan base. That's kind of like that like quiet, under the radar. Like if you can get those guys going, like you can get a great home field advantage, right? Like that's one of those fan bases that they're like, when they're struggling, yeah, they're Houston fans, but I'm also supporting my Liga MX side, right? But when Houston's going, they're out there supporting their team, and beautiful stadium, winning games. It could get that fan base going, and it's been a while for them to do that.
So you're saying it's a fortress? It could be a fortress in Houston. So you're saying it might be a shell?
Yeah, there you go. Well, they've been a shell of themselves, right?
Absolutely.
To this point. So.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Well, let's just get off that joke and let's stay in Texas. What the hell, Austin? Because you mentioned the Copa Tejas. It just, I don't want to like run the risk of like condensing a game down to who wants it more, but I don't know how to fix Austin at this point. Like we had talked about Philly, I kept waiting for Philly to come good, and they did, and they are. Yeah. They're rising up the table. They're winning games. I kept waiting for Austin to do that, and it just isn't happening. And it's just even even within the games themselves, they just seem kind of flat.
And the funny thing is, what have we said about them for really 2 years running, right? Like they desperately need a center forward to help out Driussi, and finally they've got a guy who's at least his last 3 matches has scored a goal in Zardes, but they're still not winning games, right? Like Zardes gets his 100th and they lose to Houston. So, I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. And again, the issue I think in Texas, and this is what I love too about the expansion of MLS, is like now there is pressure all around you, right? Like no matter kind of where in the country you are, right? Like before you could even say like Sporting was sort of out there on their own, but now they've got St. Louis bearing down on them, right? Like geographically, and it's always been Houston and Dallas, and Houston's always, not always, but for the last number of years haven't been good, and Dallas have been good. But then Austin comes in and they were good. But now, like for Austin, like, you've got the shiny new stadium, right? Like you had the run to the Western Conference Final last year. Reportedly, you're increasing your season tickets, right? Like, but we need the performance now if you're the fans. And all around us in Texas, the other teams are winning. So I think the pressure certainly is there for Austin. There's no doubt.
Also, we mentioned hot seat. We mentioned premature separations from working arrangements. How much longer do you think Inter Miami is going to stick with their coach, considering you look at the Fire, they were preemptive, but they replaced Ezra. Red Bulls, for a variety of reasons, needed to replace Gerhard Struber, and they did. Toronto's probably right there on the ropes when it comes to Bob Bradley. What about Inter Miami? Right now, the bottom of the table. Yes, I know that they're a win out of jumping up, 4 spots. 5-0-9, averaging a goal a match. They've given up 18. They've lost 3 in a row. So they are the epitome of the streaky club, but right now they are streaking at the bottom of the East.
I would say the answer to that question lies in the Lionel Messi sweepstakes.
He's going to Saudi Arabia. I mean, when you offer somebody allegedly 1.2 double extra large to go and be an ambassador for Saudi Arabia, and we know that they're going to be an ambassador for the 2030 project, the Vision 2030 project. I mean, you can't compete with that. I don't care if you Beckham rule the Beckham rule. You can't you can't create the Messi rule and have it equal $1.2 billion. There's no way.
I'm just saying that if they are in talks and if there is a possibility,
yeah,
I think you hold off on pulling that coaching trigger until whatever happens with him is finalized.
Okay.
Because he's a game changer, obviously, right? Like, he comes in, they start winning games, he's scoring goals. Neville looks like a genius, right? So
True. Yeah. And they need all the help they can get scoring goals. That's obvious.
yeah.
Jarrett, what else is on your mind as we head into the weekend or the midweek? Who am I kidding?
You talked about the pressure regionally, how it impacts the state of Texas, for instance. We talked about California,
LA. Yeah.
Even on the East Coast, like we see it where like, I guess I wanted to like lead this into getting your thoughts on what DC's done this year, because I know you had the weird game last week where, as if it's a high school game, Wayne Rooney pulls guys before halftime to send a statement. But before that, they had started kind of finding some success with the what do? We play it long to Benteke. Then what? Then we profit philosophy of life. But is DC maybe stabilizing on the whole for the first time in 5 years, kind of?
I don't know. I'm not buying them yet. Like who they've relied, or he's relying, I should say, Rooney is relying heavily on veterans, right? Like Benteke and Klitsch. Like, let's see what happens when it's 85 and humid in DC, or it's August, right? Like, can they continue to get performances from their veteran guys? Not sure. And he seems to have gone away from the youth as well. So I don't know. I don't know if it's sustainable for DC. But I do love the quote from Roy. If he's nothing, he's entertaining. About if I could have switched all 11, I would have done that.
Shouldn't we make a rule in Major League Soccer that if you want to make a fire wagon change, you can?
Can you imagine 11 guys on the sideline ready to come in?
And it doesn't count against your numbers. Like if you substituted your entire brick, it doesn't count against your substitution numbers.
You should be able to do it, but you have to do it like a hockey line change.
Yes. Absolutely.
And you have to build a wall, and they have to climb over the wall onto a bench.
See, and that was part of our saving of the All-Star game, is to allow unlimited substitutions and fire wagon change. Have those kinds of things happen in the All-Star game. I mean, it would be amazing to just sit there and it's like you drift off, you drift on, and it's legends and all these you drift off, you drift on. It's like a change in hockey. You do it, that kind of thing. But if you have to do 11, you want to do 11, you've got to have them all rush on at once, and everybody's got to rush off at once. And it doesn't count against your substitution bricks, your three windows otherwise.
Feel bad for the PA announcer, right? For the next 5 minutes going through all the changes.
Well, and then for play-by-play, Dave Johnson, I'm sure, could handle it. But depending on the team and who did it, you get a full fire wagon change. I know that Mike and Jason could handle it here in Atlanta pretty easily.
Or that poor graphics guy trying to get
the graphics guy. Jarrett, could you imagine the graphics guy with the tombstone trying to switch out that all full 11?
Oh my God, just like your technical director screaming in your ear about what change it. It's this for this. It's this for this. Get it up. Get it down. Get it on. Get it ready. Why isn't it in?
Exactly.
Why isn't it ready?
Yes.
Man, the PSL game I did the other day, we didn't even have they don't announce. They don't even hold a board up to show the subs. They don't announce the subs. Oh. They also didn't tell us how much stoppage time was at the end of each half. So we're just letting the clock run past 45 and 90. Like, it's 3 minutes of stoppage time. We don't know. Your guess is as good as ours.
We'll figure it out. What's going on with Varsity Media, OSTB, and MLS Soccer?
Yeah, so Varsity Media wise. Counting down to the end of the season. We don't have the broadcast rights to the Long Island Championships, but we will be there for pre and post game coverage. We're calling it
coverage. That's the way to get around it, brother. There you go.
We're calling it our Mega Cast.
Oh,
which is on all of our social media platforms as well as our YouTube channel. So it's at Varsity Media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Varsity Media on our YouTube. We'll be at Stony Brook's Laval Stadium from 9:30 in the morning on Saturday until 6:30 or so, 7 o'clock at night. So that'll be a fun one. 4 games, Long Island Championships for lacrosse. OSDB, have a fun one you guys could check out. While the World Cup is coming here in 2026, the foot golf World Cup is currently happening in Orlando. So I spoke with John Aaron from Ann Arbor, Michigan. He's part of Team USA for foot golf, but I won't give away the entire story. But here's something interesting for you guys and for the listeners, obviously, who are all soccer fans. You would think, right, between the two sports, if you are really good at soccer, that gives you like an incredible edge, right, to play foot golf, because obviously it's like, you're kicking the soccer ball into larger holes on an actual golf course, right? So advantage to the soccer player, right? But Aaron says actually not, because if you think about it, if you take like a goal kick and you're thumping it for distance, you're putting backspin.
Oh, that's true.
On that ball, right? So it can kind of land to the guy you want it to. Here you got to put topspin on it because you want it to hit the ground, roll towards the hole. And he said too, in soccer, right? You take a free kick, you're Almada and you're taking a free kick, and if you miss the spot you're going to make, it goes into the stands, right? No big deal, goal kick. You miss your spot here, you're probably like a -3. It goes into the water, like you've got to, like, it's not. And also the putts are like taking the best foot golfers in the world, take it with their toes, like straight on toe putt instead of like side foot. So
John, have you ever played foot golf? I need to know this real quick.
Have I? I have not.
No,
John.
No, John.
No.
Okay. That was John. John might spike himself. Is why I asked.
No doubt. Bart, have you ever played foot golf before?
Yeah, I have. Not like super competitively, and it's been a long time ago, but yeah, I've played it.
Okay.
Did you putt with your toe?
I don't think I did, because I wouldn't have thought to do that. We were just out there playing, so no, I did not.
So there you go. John Aaron is the guy, and foot golf World Cup in Orlando currently. So cool story on that on osdbsports.com.
Dylan_Butler. He's going to be hanging out for a long night talking about other stuff, I'm sure. And so we'll catch up with you, Dylan, next week. As always, my friend, thanks for hanging out with us on a Wall Pass Wednesday.
All right, boys.
All right.
Thanks, so Jason has always made fun of me for the way I putt in foot golf. First of all, when I shoot, I toe the ball when I shoot, like on the quote unquote drive. I'm not getting under. I'm not like backspinning it unless I'm trying to like get it on the green and stop it. Like I John Daly that thing. I put my toe right in the middle of that thing, and wherever it goes, that's God's plan for it. When I putt, and Jason has always laughed at me for this, I walk up to it, and instead of toe poking it, I literally put my foot straight down and just use the top of my foot and just walk up to it and just tap it with the top of my foot
with your instep,
because it's just a flat surface.
Okay.
Just to try and make it go forward. But when I do it, I almost fall down, and it's like watching an ostrich trip.
Okay. That's intriguing. All right. I've never foot golfed in my life, and I would make a complete and total ass of myself, and I'd probably fall down about 7 times. And so that is something I would probably watch others do and sit there and have them laugh at me in turn. So that's foot golf down here for the morning. Bart comes in, as he always does, at 10:30 on Wednesdays, on Wall Pass Wednesday, and we have Midweek Whiparound Wall Pass Wednesday, Bart Keeler, Dylan Butler. And Bart, first topic for you, and I imagine it's probably going to end up being a Soccer for US POD in a longer form about this particular topic. But the substitute teacher now has a substitute teacher.
Yeah, the assistant to the interim. I think that a lot of people are making something out of this that it doesn't need to be. Obviously, I think it's valid to criticize U.S. Soccer for not having a permanent coach in place or plans for that at this point in time. However, they have been pretty crystal clear with communicating that the coach would be in place by the end of the summer.
Mhm.
So they're not, shifting on that timeline as much as we would like for them to. They're not shifting on that. It is definitely not ideal that a guy named BJ Callahan, who may or may not have actually coached soccer before this, they tell us that he has, will be in charge of the team for 2 very important tournaments this summer. However, I think that this is maybe we will see, a invigorated squad that knows that they have to perform at their best in order to capture the goals that they set forth before this. And I also don't know how much of a great deal Anthony Hudson was really coaching the team up in the games that we have played. So it's, there's a lot of unknown. Do I feel as confident as I did, 36 hours ago? No. But I don't think this is a catastrophic event, and I certainly don't think that there's anything there were people, of course, trying to make some sort of conspiracy out of this, because everything has to be a conspiracy in US soccer circles. Look, Anthony Hudson took a job because it's a permanent job. He doesn't have a permanent job right now.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. And supposedly the rumor is that it's somewhere in the Middle East. I would a club job is what has been reported. A club job in the Middle East. It's very possible he got, buckets of money from somewhere in Saudi Arabia to go coach Messi. I don't know. It's probably a better gig than what he has currently, or would have even within U.S. soccer after his interim role expires. So whatever, good for him. Hopefully it's a good job. I don't think there's any real reason to be super mad about this, because U.S. soccer has been clear and consistent about their timeline for hiring a permanent manager from the start.
Let's ask the same question we always ask. Is Jesse Marsh the leader in the clubhouse?
Well, I've seen also that he's apparently the leader for the AS Monaco job, and he's also being considered for other jobs. Greg Berhalter is being considered for Swansea. Also, Jesse Marsh is being considered for Swansea. Who knows, Jarrett? Who knows?
See, yeah, Bart was right there on the edge of the explicit warning for the show this morning. I could sense where he was going. Allegedly, apparently, possibly, probably, Callahan joined U.S. Soccer in 2019 from the Philadelphia Union. Initially served as the strategy analyst before being promoted to assistant coach, part of the staff that won Nations League Gold Cup and reached the round of 16 in the 2022 FIFA World Cup. So that's 7 years with the Philadelphia Union, 2 years coaching in the academy, 5 years as a first-team assistant coach to Jim Curtin, played 4 years at Ursinus College, served as an assistant at Villanova. So that is the CV of BJ Callahan.
Look, I think you'd rather someone of an actual coaching ilk be the next guy up. But the fact is, again, we're at the assistant to the interim, so that was just not going to happen. I mean, I personally, I'd say bring Mikey Varas up after he gets done winning a U20 World Cup with this group here, but that's not going to happen.
There you go. I'm digging that.
Has the federal government ever considered approaching U.S. soccer about how to keep things under wrap and keep things quiet?
I know. It's pretty impressive that they were able to just keep going the way they are right now.
Yeah, I know we get rumors and all that this comes out with it, but we don't see. I feel like we don't see a lot of stuff get leaked until the 11th hour, where it doesn't matter anymore. But
it is shocking that the Anthony Hudson news hasn't actually been, because we still don't know exactly where they said he is departing for an opportunity. There have been reports that it will be a club in the Middle East, but even that, it's been that's a super vague.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even give us a league, or a country.
It's in the Middle East, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, there's only, let's be honest, there's only a handful of countries and leagues that I think he would go to for that. Yeah. It's I'm with you, Jared. It's surprising how little gets out.
Yeah, strange how that works.
Yeah, and so I guess away from the big team, you talked about winning a U20 World Cup and the hopes and dreams that we all hang on to this. What were your thoughts on yesterday's performance?
Caleb Wiley is very good. Man, he was cooking he was cooking up something special yesterday. I think it's very unfortunate he did not actually get an assist, and that's mainly because no one on this team is actually a good finisher.
Yeah.
And that's been the issue from the start. But this is a U20 team where you're taking guys from the ages of 17 to 20, and shockingly, our best striker in this age group is Ricardo Pepi. So he's not here for legitimate reasons and obvious reasons. So now you're going to second, third, fourth choice striker options, and none of them seem to be great finishers. It's unfortunate, and I think that will probably bite this team at some point in the competition, but so far it hasn't. And yesterday was, he still got 4 goals. They're creating a lot of chances. Caleb Wiley is definitely part of that chance creation. I think he's thriving in that wing back role. And this team, it's just fun to watch. That's where I'm at. They're fun to watch. They create a lot of chances. They're pretty sharp defensively. It's a U20 tournament, so please no one take any actual big takeaways from this other than some of these kids are pretty fun to watch. I know.
On a U20 tournament.
Look, if you win the thing, then you can overreact. I think anything short of winning, the takeaway is there's some talent, and the floor of that talent that we're producing continues to increase with every tournament. This is the 4th straight time the U20 men have made the quarterfinals of the U20 World Cup, but it does feel, that this team particularly is it's a step up from even those before then, and I think that's the real takeaway.
It's been fun to watch them in Argentina.
And as the commenters keep saying, San Juan or whatever, they cannot. The English speakers, the British speakers, and the ability to pronounce anything in Spanish is by far my favorite challenge. Also, apparently calling one of the players Che Justin.
Yes.
All day yesterday until he scored, and then they got it right as they said Justin Che. But that was a fun.
On the air yesterday, we got Che Justin
and Josh Witter. Yeah.
Oh man.
The preparation apparently not very great, but San Juan and Che Justin.
Yep. Reffingdownhere this week, I do have a couple of topics that I wanted to
absolutely.
But has anything stuck out to you that you wanted to bring to the table this morning when it comes to Reffingdownhere?
Not particularly this week. I will say that I think it was funny before in the pregame show, Mike and Jason talked about the referee. Oh crap. Now I can't remember his name. Who refereed our match Saturday?
I'll check it real quick.
It's the old dude. And I can't remember. He hasn't refereed in a while. Anyway, they were talking about how his average of fouls called is pretty low compared to others. And he calls who?
Fotis Bazakas?
No. Last Saturday.
Right, hang on. Checking back. Checking. Give me a second. Oh, Alan Chapman did this.
Chapman, thank you. Chapman, yeah. We haven't had him in a while, and they were obviously commenting on he doesn't call a whole lot of fouls, which we all know that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he had to call 5 fouls in the first 3 minutes, and that was kind of funny because the game was so I don't know, intense or sloppy. Which one was it, Jarrett? Which one was it? Because it was choppy at the start for sure.
Yeah, it's we talk about this all the time, Bart, where we talk about this with energy drink games. And I know you have preached this in the show of putting the right official in the right game, knowing how an official is wired and giving them the right game so that everybody benefits. And this is a rivalry game. You need to give it the right official to see it play out, maybe with 11 people on the field for each team. And
absolutely.
Feels like a win at that point.
Can't have that. Come on now.
And I think he did a good job. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I just thought it was funny that we were talking about how he doesn't call a whole lot of fouls.
And of course,
And there was like 3 in the first minute and a half, and I remember Mike specifically was like, "These are legitimate fouls. He's not calling it tight. They're pretty." I think Sosa drew one and fouled another guy within 30 seconds of each other, and that felt about right.
It's just efficiency.
yeah. Story in Soccer America that I wanted to bring to the table this morning, because there's a story domestically and the story that we talked about internationally. I want to say it was yesterday. Dan Woog wrote an article at Soccer America. Iowa Soccer innovates approach to training young refs.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan says nearly every soccer organization in the U.S. faces a crisis. Refs are leaving in alarming numbers. Most groups think the solution is money. If we pay them more, the thinking goes, we'll attract more. Iowa Soccer takes a different approach. Administrators are making it easier for young officials to begin in the first place. Then they give them the tools they really need. Not instruction in the laws of the game, but resources to handle coaches, parents, and players. There's money involved, of course, but in this case, it's a grant from U.S. Soccer to help train the referee trainers. Iowa Soccer, the governing body of both youth and adult soccer in the Hawkeye State, recently received funding to expand a pilot program that grows the base of the referee pyramid. It targets youngsters ages 12 to 14, minimizing barriers to entry while helping them manage small-sided games. The grant is one of 19 awarded through U.S. Soccer's Innovate to Grow program. The total of over $3 million focuses on increasing participation and retention and encouraging a variety of play, sparked by a nearly 50% decline in youth officials in a 5-year period. CEO of Iowa Soccer and referee and sportsmanship director zeroed in on the base of the pyramid. The CEO said, quote, I always thought introductory courses were too law-heavy. They didn't prepare new referees for the actual experience. He's a national referee, worked D1 MLS preseason matches before getting injured. And they created a pilot program, no cost for the training, prepares participants to officiate 6- and 7-year-old games. Rather than instruction on the nuances of fouls, it explores what-ifs. What should you do, for example, if a ball goes out of bounds and a player from the wrong team throws it in, or a mom runs onto the field in the middle of a game because her child is crying? The pilot program rolled out last spring with 60 youngsters in 4 clubs. This year it expanded to 8. And besides free access to the training, every new referee is given a shirt. The 2 guys have conducted all the training. They will train others to lead courses. The U.S. Soccer grant will enable Iowa Soccer to push the program out to 40 clubs. Paid for the first year of referee certification and a uniform for every youngster who wants to continue beyond the initial program.
So I think this is actually perfect because it's something that I think we've needed. We have the grassroots referee certification, but we need something before that is not official refereeing, if that makes sense, for the 9 and younger age group. Because at that age, and this, I'm sorry if there are any soccer parents in the chat who feel differently, at that age, what matters is the fact that they're just out there playing soccer. The score does not matter. Yellow cards and red cards don't really matter unless it's egregious things. Getting them out there in structured environments is what matters, right? So for the referees, I love this approach because it's just about game management. It's just about, the example of if a mom runs onto the field. Personally, in my training, we were told that if you sell it like you told her that, yes, she can come onto the field because you do not get in the way of a mama bear and her cub.
Yeah.
That is a law of nature. And you just say, yeah, she's allowed on, especially at that age. Yeah. But, little things like that do matter because at that age, you're going to get, what happens if a kid runs onto the field during a substitution, even though it wasn't their turn. And, the legitimate thing is you're supposed to give them a yellow card. But let's be real honest, at that age, it's more just, hey, Johnny, go back to the bench. It's not your turn. Things like this. Actually, Soccer for Good, OG, I feel like I remember that program for Soccer in the Streets where it wasn't about being a fully certified referee. It was just getting people out there who are neutral and in charge of those young games. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is just someone who is a neutral bias, who is just there to make sure kids are safe and having fun in an organized manner, that aren't screaming at them the whole time. So I love this. I think this is the perfect way to get kids interested, get them a little bit of money, and I like the idea also of helping pay for the certification and uniform. I've felt long that clubs should be empowered to do that. If you get a kid who can do the, U8 rec game, I don't know why you need a fully certified ref for that. I don't think it's necessary. But get the 13-year-old whose dad is probably one of the coaches anyway, of the U12 academy team, and they're at the field anyway. So just put them out there and say, hey, go make sure the game gets reported correctly. I think that's beautiful. I think this is what we need to get more of, because it does get kids learning what being a referee is about before we get into actual laws of the game.
Goal is that the young officials who begin with age-appropriate training will want to move up the ranks, take a certification class. Project also involves sportsmanship. Kids and adults leave officiating because of the way they're treated by coaches and parents. Iowa Soccer is going to provide signage and literature for everyone who's at the fields. The program's third prong is mentorship. Quoting the CEO for Iowa Soccer, it doesn't matter whether you want to do U14 rec or become a national referee, we'll help you. Feedback has been positive. Pilot clubs have asked for more training. Young refs have continued to enjoy it. Some have even taken the next grassroots course. Coaches and parents appreciate Iowa Soccer's commitment to young officials. And so that was topic number one. Topic number two, in England, and I can't, like I said, I can never do it like Jason does it, so I just say England. From the Telegraph, football teams to face points deductions for ref abuse under new FA sanctions. Rules will take effect for the 23-24 season in grassroots games, and there was a calling for it to be expanded into elite games. Grassroots teams will be hit with points deductions for abusing refs under new landmark sanctions from the Football Association to combat rising on-field hostilities across the game. Football regulatory authorities approved the punishment ratified by the FA Council. Grassroots and former elite refs unanimous in welcoming the move, although some immediately called on the governing body to consider extending the sanctions to the elite game. Mark Bullingham, governing body's chief exec, has championed tougher protections following consistent feedback from across grassroots football that player behavior is a significant issue, consulting with pro leagues about improving the poor behavior in the elite game. Multiple amateur leagues were canceled last year in England after a shocking upturn in violence and abuse, with 380 players and coaches banned. Points deductions will now specifically target offending teams where its participants commit serious misconduct, making clear to clubs that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated. So points deductions and suspensions.
I wish they would, do actual points deductions for financial fair play breaches, but that's just an Arsenal fan being upset that Manchester City's going to buy another title next year. No, I think this is an interesting approach, because clearly, as that article detailed, there's been problems up and down the grassroots and semi-pro, or whatever that you want to call that level in between, youth and actual certified professional leagues, because if you're going to act as though a single referee decision is somehow going to alter the outcome of the match the way that they think they do, and act a fool out of that, then you're going to actually have sanctions that alter the outcome of your season. Because clearly the threat of missing games because you've abused a referee isn't working, right? That's there. Referee abuse, getting a red card in the game, all these things, you can miss games for that. But clearly that's not an incentive enough. So here they are, trying another thing. I don't know how this will work. Obviously, you have these regulations, you have to actually implement them as well. But it's another mechanism to try to get people to act and behave right. And I think it just goes back to the overall, referees get the most abuse, but it just goes back to the idea that for some reason these people feel like youth soccer and the game that's going on in their, in front of them is somehow the most important event going on in the entire world at that given time. And I get it. That's what happens with parents. Again, we talk about it every week, that something happens when you have a child, you turn into a Neanderthal and everything is about protecting that child. I get it. But there has to be some level of respect for everyone involved, and that includes the referees.
Jarrett, what's on your mind for Bart?
Oh God.
I didn't mean to give you. It's like I know that you've got like 9 things running through your head.
No, and I also have to jump after this.
Okay.
Hey Bart, because we've asked everybody else this question. Let's ask you too. What are your thoughts about Tillman poking the bear in Mexico?
I love it. They better back it up. They better back it up. But hey, listen, the man just got his, one-time switch to the U.S. men's national team. Talk that smack. I love it. I think that, I mean, look, I'm not going to say he's right, but I'm going to say that I agreed with his comments.
And it will be. So, are you going to be? It's going to end up being a rather. Yeah, Coco says Tillman better not get skinned alive. I mean, I think that first tackle might be when he's in that match, the first tackle, the first interaction he gets is probably going to be a reminder about that. But that's the thing. You wanna talk that game. You better back it up. Jared, are you back with us tomorrow?
I am back with you tomorrow.
Then you'll be back with us tomorrow.
We'll rehash whatever happens tonight. Everybody's so doom and gloom about it right now. I don't really want to talk about it anymore because, hey, you got 2 teams that are kind of scuffling a bit, but pretending that one of them isn't scuffling just to make yourself feel more warm and fuzzy and pessimistic and however you're going to live your life, man. I don't know.
Okay.
It should be a dumb game. It should be beautiful.
My prediction is that we give up a goal somehow, and because we didn't mark a player. That's my prediction for tonight, Jarrett.
Very possible. This game could go 4-4.
Yeah.
Neither one of these teams are we were talking about this in the first hour. Atlanta's advanced stats point to them regressing in a positive way in terms of goals allowed.
Yeah.
New England can't defend.
No.
We could get a 4-4 masterpiece.
They don't have the personnel right now. They really don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think injuries were an excuse. I'm sorry. We can use those now. Well, shiver my timbers. Anyway, I'm hoping for just stupidity. We could get 3-3, 4-4, something like that. That'd be hilarious.
Stupidity down here. We'll talk about it tomorrow with you, Jared. We'll see you then.
Yep.
All right. So there goes Jarrett. So Bart, you're over under, by the way, since we were getting into this discussion. Over under at 2.5 is a minus 147. Over under at 3.5 is a plus 170. And if you really want to get into numbers, over under at 4.5 is a plus 400. So if you're looking at a 3-2 and you want to put some stinky juice boxes on something.
Yeah.
And that's what we always say. We always say and maintain. Please invest only the juice boxes that you can afford to part with. If it's one that has an expiration date of 2012 that's been hanging out at the back of the fridge, if it's a flavor that you were given at a friend's U12 match and you sit there and you look at that and it's like, I don't like passion fruit guava mango, that's the one you invest. You don't invest one that you like. You don't invest the Capri Sun that's the multi-berry flavor. You don't invest the Celsius that you sit there and it's like, oh, wild berry, I want to invest that. No. It's got to be something at the back of the fridge. It's got to be something with a flavor that you don't like. It's got to be something with an expiration date that is way off the charts. We do not condone or endorse any kind of juice box investment with something that you like. Only invest juice boxes that you can part with traditionally. So that's what we're staring at here.
I mean, looking back at the last month and a half of matches, actually 2 months of matches, we've had at least 2 goals in every single match. Most matches have gone to 3 goals.
Yeah.
Several have gone to 4. So I would lean on that 3 over under 3 goals. I think the over is more likely to happen than not.
Yeah.
That would be my personal take. I will put grape juice boxes on that because I do not like grape.
Okay. Just checking.
No, if I wanted to put something actually on it, it would be like fruit punch or citrus or one of those flavors.
Pineapple, mango, citrus kickstart.
Absolutely.
That's what it would be for me. Because literally, there are some stores that's the only one that they take, as I have gravitated sometimes to kickstarts these days. And I'm like, do I really have to? And it's like, yes, the only one.
The pineapple mango citrus is good. I'm a fan of that one. That used to be the one my go-to as well. I got into Celsius recently, and they've got the tropical vibe one or the peach vibe that I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
This game, I agree with Jarrett. It could be 4-4. It could be 1-1. But I'm not joking when I say that we will give up a goal because we just choose not to mark someone. Because apparently, Gonzalo Pineda is only capable of telling the team to be more intense in press conferences after the matches where we are not intense enough, and not doing that in training or before a match. So this is a frustrating trend that I know we all share. Sorry to get into actual Atlanta United talk, but it does need to get fixed because part of this is definitely on the players. I 100%
and
agree.
that was the point that I was going to draw.
But part of this is also on the coaching staff to get them to the level of intensity they need to be ready to win those battles and be attuned to the danger early on in matches, because we can't keep thinking that Thiago Almada will just be fantastic and great and save us every match, even though he does have a track record of doing that. That it's not going to be done every time, and you can't keep leaving yourselves holes, and you just cannot continue to allow teams to score on you with such ease. That's why I laughed when Jarrett said, "Oh, we should regress back to the XG against," and I'm like, no, we won't, because we can. The goals we're giving up are because we just choose to give them up. We choose to turn off at all the wrong times, and that's the reason why we've given up the second most goals or whatever it is in the league. I'm looking at the schedule going forward, and it just gets harder. And so, good teams create good opportunities, and we're very good at giving up goals on bad opportunities. So, that Charlotte game to me was a perfect example of a bad team. I still think Charlotte's a bad team. I don't care what their track record actually says. A bad team gets a couple of opportunities, and we give them a gift. Gutman makes a stupid foul in the box. We don't mark on the back post because Lennon has to go take maybe a guy he maybe shouldn't have marked, but there is a free guy in the box, so we had to go mark him. There's a guy back post. All these things that we just continually do. We overcommit to one side. I do think that there's a lot on the coaching staff to get this team prepared to play and defend for 90 minutes. And I think a lot of that, yes, you can blame the players for their lack of intensity or lack of attentiveness, but the coaches are also part of this team, and they've got to do their job. And just saying, oh, we weren't urgent enough or we didn't have the intensity after the match, this is just the fan in me speaking, but it doesn't make us feel better when you say it every single match. And maybe that's a leadership issue on the field. I will be the first to criticize that Miles Robinson is not that type of leader. It's not his fault. That's just not the guy he is. He's not the scream, get in your face, and motivate people to be a little bit more intense. That's not who he is.
But now
I don't know who.
But now that you have Brad back, you do have that voice back.
Yeah, maybe Brad can do that. That wasn't necessarily the case against Orlando because we still had that issue. We also don't have a single, in my opinion, good central midfielder. We have Thiago Almada as the attacking mid, but I do not think we have a good central midfielder, and we're paying a shit ton of money for all of them. We're paying a crap ton of money for all of them to not be very good. And that's a problem as well.
I would disagree with you where Franco Ibarra is concerned, though.
Yeah, he's not making as much money.
So
it's been problematic, John. The midfield is problem. I agree that Ibarra has been the best overall performer. Unfortunately, he can't stay on the field. And when Sosa's on the field, I don't know why necessarily. I mean, there are reasons, and there are some technical reasons and tactical reasons, but we just don't have great success when Santi Sosa's on the field. We certainly don't win a whole lot when he's on the field. Maybe that's because he gets put out there against better teams, but I don't exactly, I don't know why that is, but it has become frustrating, John, but at the same time, people will say, well, we're still in a playoff position, and they're right. We keep going down the table because we can't get a win. And when we do get a win, we throw away any momentum by putting out a starting lineup that isn't very winnable. But hey, intensity, right? That's what matters. I don't know. I'm hopeful that this summer we get some replacements. We find some guys who can bring that intensity to the midfield. But I'm not hopeful because we're also likely to lose. We will lose Luis Arujo, which, despite his lack of production, has been a person who draws attention from the other team. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, we're most likely losing Thiago Almada as well. I think it's very unlikely that we get the loan move back. I just, I'm not hopeful for that.
Yeah.
So, I'm concerned because we've had very easy teams that we've, very easy opponents. We haven't maximized our points from that. We've gotten lucky to beat some of the teams we have or tie some of the teams we have. And this is with, I'm concerned, John. Let's just put it. I have concerns that this team is not where it needs to be. But I also can understand that this team is the team before the team that is good. Maybe next season after, a couple of transfer windows where Garth gets to, I don't think Garth is pulling the strings, but I think he's guiding I think he's guiding the spending a little bit better. Let's just put it that way. I don't think that was.
Garth has said that this will be the year that you've got to pull. You just have to pull the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
And things will evolve from here. So
yeah,
I
mean, he's very clear with. I think he communicates very clearly and plainly. How he feels the team. Where he feels the team needs to improve, what the strategy is. And again, I don't think Garth is the one making the signings. I think that he's said that very clearly as well. But I think his guidance is helpful because I don't think Darren was in that type of way, that type of president. He obviously doesn't have the personnel and the technical background that Garth does. We know that Garth has been doing that in this league. But he's not going, like, I think people want to continually give credit to Garth when any time a good signing happens. And it's like, well, that wasn't Garth. Garth isn't out there scouting or signing. He's guiding. Mm-hmm. And that usually has probably more to do with salary versus, types of players we're looking for, stuff like that. So.
And Bart, when we go down this road, I know that it's kind of a running jab where we do. Yeah, we talk a lot about Reffingdownhere national team stuff, and then with like 3 seconds left in the segment, you want to.
I know. I have thoughts on this team, John. I'm a season ticket holder. I travel a lot for them. I have thoughts.
and this is why I would posit that if we were to have you come on for a second weekly segment, then that would be the Atlanta United Bart Keeler segment because
it probably would be.
That's the thing. It's like. It's like 3 seconds left in the segment. Then he wants to talk about Atlanta United. I have no problem doing added extra time. I never do. But no, it's just like you bring this in the back door, and it's like, oh, ish. It's like, all right, so he wants to bring this on.
Well, it's also match day, and I've got my Atlanta United polo on as I'm here in the office, and it just, you want this team to be good because you see the potential, you see the. You see the passion the fan base has. You see the fact that we're still packing out the bins. I mean, I wasn't able to go to the last Wednesday night game because I was sick, but like watching on TV, you could still see that it was pretty full. Mm-hmm. And I know Wednesday games are hard. I know this one particularly, that 30 minutes extra or early is going to be tough for people to get into the stadium.
It's actually only 14 minutes early because it's a 7:25 kick.
Well, I know.
Like a pregame show.
Right. Yeah, you're right. But point is, it's a little bit earlier than normal. Mm-hmm. But look, we still have a fat, passionate fan base. We still have a front office that is, despite what you actually think of their skills and ability, are committed to making the team better and making it as good as it can be. Are they able to execute that all the time? Clearly not. But no front office is perfect. Mm-hmm. And you have an owner who's willing to back the front office and their goals for signing good players. So we just all want the team to perform at the level that a team with this type of financial backing should perform at. We don't want to be Chelsea. we would like to be.
Well,
We
there's
would like to be more like
Yeah.
Newcastle, Arsenal, or
Well,
teams like that,
I
where
mean,
they're
much
getting
love-
the best out of their players.
much love to Alex Basine, but that's a PIF discussion, and I don't want to get.
Well, fair enough.
And Rich, the Philadelphia Union fan, and all of this sits there and says, "One win, you guys are in third, still a good position."
I mean, and that's exactly where we're at, Rich. We are dropping down the table because we are not getting the wins that we need. But at the same time, we're still very much in the playoff hunt. We're still very much in the hunt for a home playoff match. The problem is we just see teams like Nashville continuing to churn out wins.
Nashville, don't even get me started on Nashville. I
don't like to talk about them either.
I love, Lucas Panziku's got golden ticket status. I will listen to Lucas and Jaleel Anibaba. But Nashville is one. I mean, Nashville rolls 7s and 11s when they need to.
It's crazy how they do it, John. It really is. And I think we just want a little bit of that. It feels like we're not getting that. We got it a couple times early in the season, again, because Thiago Almada is a very good soccer player. And sometimes, having the best player on the field will win you or get you points. It's fair. He's very good. But I will continue to say that, look, this team is going to be in a lot of flux at the end of this season, at the beginning of next year, because we're going to lose some very good players. And one of those, and to tie this up, John, and I'll leave you with this, one of those is Caleb Wiley. And I just want to repeat that Caleb Wiley has had a fantastic U20 tournament, and this is the type of tournament that can add a lot of value to someone's transfer rating, if you will. And Atlanta United is going to have a big decision to make about him, I think, possibly this summer, if not going into next year. And good for him.
But you also have coming up the pipeline, you have Efren Morales, you've got Noah Cobb, you have Johnny Fortune in the midfield. So it is working from an academy standpoint with what you're seeing from Atlanta United too, and players working their way up. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting better. Absolutely nothing wrong with wanting better. And I know that what we try to do here on the show is offer the forum, whether it's Twitch Pitch or through guests or what have you, to have all these different perspectives on the table, because that's what we're here for. We want to have Rich. Bart always says the wrong takes about Curtin and the Union, but that's just Rich. He gets the Union dig in right there at the end. But no, we always want the honest exchange of ideas, whether it's in the Twitch Pitch or here on the show. And that's the thing. It's like, it's we may have raised voices at one another, but having all of these different perspectives is what we've always wanted to have here on the show every single morning.
Well, John, I think we're blessed to have a club where demanding the best isn't unrealistic. We're not Nashville, to be quite honest, which has continually hits their ceiling a lot of times in the first round of the playoff.
They absolutely do, because their defense can only take them so far, right. And when you have no secondary striker to help out Hani Mukhtar, that traditionally means you're only scoring once.
Right. I mean, we're not even, we're certainly not LA Galaxy, although they're in a position to demand excellence. We're not DC United, we're not Montreal, we're not Vancouver, we're not teams that just hope to maybe make the playoffs. And I'm not trying to disparage them. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We are Atlanta United, and from day one, the goal has always been to win MLS Cup.
Yeah.
And we are blessed to have that, because the infrastructure to achieve that goal is there. We've been fortunate enough to win 3 major trophies. And we've been fortunate enough to, even during bad years, still be playoff contenders and still have guys like Thiago Almada or Pity Martinez in front of us to watch. And, that is still a blessing when it's all said and done. Pressure is a privilege. I forget which coach always says that, but that's, that's the truth when it comes to Atlanta United. This is a team full of pressure, because we do expect them to be good. The reason we expect them to be good is because we have good players. We are spoiled. We can be spoiled and blessed at the same time.
And we didn't even get into the naming of the England World Cup squad. The Lionesses named their squad this morning.
Yeah, I was curious how that was going to be the actual final squad, but I don't have time to get into all of that. But Rachel Daly, top scorer in the league this past year, she's listed as a forward. I did see that. So
she is listed as a forward. That is true.
Hint, Vlatko. It can be done. You can put Crystal Dunn in the midfield.
6 appearing in their first major tournament: Lauren James, Niamh Charles, Katie Zalem, Laura Coombs, Esme Morgan, and Katie Robinson. So that is your rundown, the quick rundown of Lionesses down here. What's the latest for Soccer for USPOD?
We are recording tomorrow because the Nations League roster should drop tomorrow.
And there's a game. There's multiple matches.
Apparently, players were supposed to be. Yeah. Well, yeah. Apparently, Anthony Hudson was supposed to be calling players yesterday, so or today, one of those two, I forget exactly. But yeah, so the roster is supposed to drop tomorrow for the Nations League. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about U20s as well, since they are into the quarterfinals. And we'll talk a little bit about what the BJ Callahan interim thing now, what that means for this team. They say the goals haven't changed. I think that's fair. I think, it'll be interesting, John. I know the guys that we're going to have on all have thoughts about what this means. But at the end of the day, just going to be excited to see some of the guys on the roster to get back into the red, white, and blue and hopefully kind of shake off a bad season that a lot of those guys had at the club level.
At Soccer for USPOD at Barnum's Prime 19. What's the mug this morning, by the way, Bart?
It's my normal mug that I have in the office. It just says "Be kind" and it's got a little bumblebee on it. So.
Okay. So are you going to make it to the match tonight? Or
I will be. Yeah, I'll be at the match tonight. Leaving from the office, taking Marta down. So lucky that I can do that.
No doubt. All right. So we'll catch up with you again next week. Thanks as always for hanging out with us at 10:30 on Wednesdays when you are well enough to do so.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. And y'all have a wonderful day.
What he said. So that's Bart. And hopefully I didn't get him in any trouble at work, because you don't want him to get in any trouble with the real world when he comes in and visits and drops by for 20 minutes. I know we went long this morning. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. And I know that we'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow. So bring your thoughts and questions that might not have been addressed today. Bring them tomorrow. We'll talk about them then, in addition to everything else. So gossip overseas. Karim Benzema considering a 400 million euro 2-year contract from Saudi Arabia. Keep an eye on that. Arsenal have no intention of selling Emile Smith-Rowe. Hope he'll return to fitness and form at the Euros, at the Euro U21s. Spurs managerial target Luis Enrique is in talks with Napoli. They are also in talks with Ange Postecoglou, and apparently that has picked up. Tottenham, Newcastle, Leicester want James Maddison and Harvey Barnes, both valued at about £40 million. That's the 3-letter paper. Spurs intend to take up an option with Dejan Kulusevski's loan to make it a permanent switch from Juve. Agreement between De Zerbi and Moises Caicedo will see him depart this summer. 3 teams in contention to sign. Chelsea, the leading contender. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Man City and Arsenal keeping tabs on Leeds forward Wilfred Nanto. Manchester United will not sign Wout Weghorst and Marcel Sabitzer on permanent deals from Burnley and Bayern, respectively. That's the 4-letter paper. Real Valladolid's right back Ivan Fresneda has received a lucrative bid from Arsenal at the age of 18. France's Benjamin Pavard set to leave Bayern Munich. Villa interested in Marco Asensio, who's expected to leave on a free. Attracted interest also from PSG, Arsenal, and AC Milan. That's the 3-letter paper. Liverpool want Borussia Mönchengladbach's Manu Kone, valued at €40 million. Juve leading the race to sign Christian Pulisic for £20 million. That's from the 4-letter paper. Porto's goalkeeper Diogo Costa set to join Manchester United, although David De Gea is keen to sign a new deal. Wolves have joined Chelsea and Crystal Palace in wanting Steve Biko FC's 19-year-old forward Adama Boyang. Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson likely to leave from relegation from the Premier League. Barcelona's manager Xavi says Man City backed out of a deal in which Joao Cancelo would have joined Barca in January before he moved on to Bayern Munich on loan for 90 minutes. So I'm checking my other notes. We talked Chris Klein. We talked about Douglas Costa. Talked about Quincy Promes, Juve, Anthony Hudson. We talked about that with Bart. Reffingdownhere we talked about. The Women's World Cup. Yeah, we did talk about that before we got into all of the notes. Rob Harris and the Women's World Cup. So European countries are kind of hacked off at FIFA because of the lack of a signed deal, because now Gianni Infantino wants to jack up the rates. And Radrizzani and Sampdoria have apparently agreed to a deal, but now it's out to Radrizzani and 49ers Investments to figure out a deal so they can figure out what they want to do to pick up 100% of the club and not have to do it for 450 million pounds. So that's the show. It's a big show. Yes, and Hutch, the Saudis seem quite desperate to diversify their economy away from petroleum. They do. All right. So once again, tonight, the 6:30 on 92.9 The Game with Mike and Jason. And Mike and Jason will take you up to Kick at 7:25 because it is on Fox. I think it's on FS1 for the Super Hyper Mega pregame show. And we will keep an eye on all of that. FS1. So, yeah, FS1 starting at 7 o'clock, Kick at 7:25. All the matches tonight. We'll talk about all of it tomorrow. We'll try and track down Nico Moreno and figure out when we're doing Thursdays with Nico. Is it Thursdays with Nico on a Thursday or a Friday? And we will work our way forward from all the gossip, news, rumor, and innuendo that has been working our way forward. Been a busy show, been a full show. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us. Thanks to Jason for dropping by to talk about everything in Major League Soccer and a little bit of Atlanta United and the Revs. Thanks to Dylan Butler, Dylan_Butler on the social medias, and getting him to talk about Major League Soccer. And then Bart, as always, to talk about stuff going on with Reffingdownhere and the U.S. men's national team, the youth national team. And then Bart wants to talk about Atlanta United as we're trying to wrap up a show, but that's perfectly fine. Well, we got nothing but space. Asta, we'll see you, Asta, tomorrow. Hutcho, thanks again for everybody for hanging out with us here once again for another round of SDH on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Tomorrow should be fairly normal, and we'll be back at it again at 9:05 to talk about what happened tonight down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and in addition to everything else in Major League Soccer. And I even forgot to read the promo for our friends at Eliminize. I'll have to do that again tomorrow. But since it is the end of the show, for everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John. Played safe, everybody. End of the show, that means I get to do this, and we'll see you again. I cut myself off before I finished up. We'll see you again tomorrow morning again at 9:05. Now it's the end of the show. I'm not going to run the close again, but we'll see you again tomorrow morning at 9:05. Be good.